Welcome to the Generous Business Owner Podcast, where business owners gain inspiration and encouragement to live a legacy, not just leave one. And now your hosts, Jeff Thomas, Alan Barnhart, and Jeff Rutt.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's Generous Business Owner Podcast. My name is Jeff Thomas, and we have a very special guest with us today. Edgar Sandoval Sr. is with us. He is the current president of World Vision, which probably needs no introduction, but I'll give you one anyway. It's a Christian humanitarian organization that works with really the poor and oppressed all over the world. I know we could talk for 40 minutes just about all the things you do there, but Edgar, it's just a real thrill to have you with us today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm really looking forward to sharing with your audience why faith-driven generosity is so important today.
Yes, and one unique thing before we get started, just for the audience's sake, is Edgar spent 20 years in business. And so I think one of the unique things, that's a very unique thing that God has taken him through. And I think his organization, World Vision, I've been very impressed that they really understand the struggles that the business owner has as a sort of partnership in the ministry that they do. And Edgar himself really understands that walk, having spent so much time in business. So we'll get to the business part, but Edgar, we always like to start with, where'd you grow up? What was your family life? Maybe what was the spiritual development? That kind of thing. Well, just a quick intro of where you're from.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. So I was born in Los Angeles, in California. My parents are Guatemalan. And so when I was 4 years old, they made the decision to move back to Latin America. We went first to Guatemala for a couple of years, and then we settled in Venezuela, back when Venezuela was a wonderful place to live, and it's changed dramatically.
Yes.
I grew up in Venezuela. I lived there for 12 years. I had a happy childhood. Venezuela was a wonderful place. But at one point, my family fell on pretty hard times, even to the extent of not having enough food to eat at home.
Mm-hmm.
I had just finished high school and been accepted to university, but I had to change my plans all of a sudden. I felt that there was no other choice but to pack everything I own in my dad's army duffel bag. My dad had served in the U.S. Army, and came back to the States. Came back to start my life over. I arrived in New York with $50 in one pocket, my American passport in the other pocket. I didn't speak any English. I felt lonely.
Wow.
I like to say that I felt like an immigrant in my own country. But this is the land of opportunity. If you work hard, well, a lot of things can happen. And so that's what I did. Work hard, odd jobs, Burger King, flipping burgers. Eventually, felt comfortable enough with the language to enroll in university. So graduated from Rutgers University with an engineering degree. And later I went on to the MBA, Wharton School of Business at Penn. And that's what opened the doors to companies like Procter & Gamble.
I always think of these. There's certain things that pop up, and I'm like, let's go spend 40 minutes on that. I'll resist the temptation, but there's a whole rabbit trail of what you were saying about. For all its foibles, this still is an amazing land of opportunity in America where people can come and go for it, even if you don't speak the language. And of course, you had unique circumstances because you were a U.S. citizen, right?
That's right.
So there was some advantage to that. You didn't have to go through maybe that process, but the language barrier and the lack of resources and that sort of thing. And so while I'm thrilled that was possible and is possible for people, it's not very common to have $50 in your pocket and not speak English and be able to have that kind of a education. What was it, do you think, maybe from your childhood, or was it just God's grace supernaturally? Like, what kind of gave you the drive to get through that? Because clearly you had a big learning curve to get through all of those things.
You are right. This is a great place to dig in.
Right.
First, I'll tell you that what I learned is that no one likes to leave the places they know and the people they know.
So true. Change.
Okay. So at World Vision, I know that at a very deep level. So what we're trying to do through World Vision is we're trying to help people not have to leave. We're trying to create what we call hope at home, so that they can prosper in the places where they were born, prosper in their communities, stay with their families, not have to take perilous journeys wherever to survive. So I have that deep conviction, and it comes from exactly your question, which is, the Lord had given me gifts and talents, and I had ambitions, and I happened to be born in a place where if you work hard, you can achieve pretty much anything you want. But that's not the case for everybody else. And so
True.
in my ministry, I identify so much, Jeff,
Mm.
with the children that I meet around the world who are so talented, so full of potential, more potential than I had. And so
Right.
what we're trying to do is create a world around them, change their circumstances so that they can thrive. So yeah, I had talents, gift, and for sure, I had a mother who always believed in me, and that's another thing. So she told us, you can achieve anything in life you want. And so I learned also that everyone needs someone to believe in them. And that's what we try to do to World Vision is tell people, we believe in you, we believe in your potential, particularly children. And there's others across the pond, thousands of miles away, who are willing to bet on you. And the result is life changing, just like my life was changed.
I think, obviously this is a podcast for business owners around generosity. And one of the discussions we often have, and you just sparked this thought in my mind, is that, and we were talking about this before we started recording, there are different types of generosity. Generosity is not just money. That might be the least important part, to be honest with you. It's your words, right? Like words of affirmation. That's what you're talking about. Like your mom built you up. Like you can do anything. Not every kid, I would say a minority of kids hear that. Developing nation or developed nation. I think we all want to, we all need words of, if Jesus needed words of affirmation from his father, how much more do we need affirmation from a father figure? Okay. It's always available from God, but it would be nice if our earthly fathers, and if they don't give it to us or mother, then somebody else,
Right.
somebody from World Vision or wherever gets it. I mean, that really is just a human need to thrive, don't you think?
Absolutely. We see this in the places where we work. The where people live in abject poverty. The greatest form of poverty help is not necessarily aid, it's
Yeah.
identity. It's identity.
Yes.
And so we go out there, we don't ask, we go to communities, to the poorest communities around the world, and we don't ask them, what do you need? We remind them, did you know that you were created in the image of a loving God? That's a words of affirmation. That's a new identity. That takes them to a renewal of the mind. We say, what resources has God given you around you? What talents do you have? We unearth all of that before we even spend a dollar on a water well or an economic empowerment or a microloan program.
Oh man.
And that begins to reshape their mind. It's truly Romans 12 is a transformation of the mind. And
Yeah.
once their minds are transformed, then your investment is going to have an amazing return because they begin to believe in their own agency and their own ability to lift themselves out of extreme poverty. We don't lift them out of extreme poverty. They lift themselves. We come alongside them with resources and words of affirmation and tools, obviously, like water, clean water, economic empowerment, and other interventions.
It's so interesting that you say that. I just love that starting point because frankly, my mind does go to, okay, well, what do you need? Right? Like that that seems like the natural first question. And it seems smart because at least we're not telling them what they
Right.
need. Oh, we're so smart. We're asking them.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, but I love that starting with affirmation of a reminder of their identity and what tools they have. The line, this keeps coming up for the people who listen to this a lot. They know I'm a little obsessed with this image. I am obsessed with the image of Moses kind of complain on top of the mountain, complaining to God. God, I need more resources. The people aren't listening to me. I need more resources. And he's like, "What's that thing in your hand?"
Exactly.
The staff that he does everything with. He's like, "You got everything you need." And I love that it gives me goosebumps that you're telling these people that your identity is in Christ. You are, knit together uniquely. He knew every hair on, and you are not under resourced.
right?
Look at the gifts of communication you have. Look at the way you look at the family that you have. Look at your work ethic. All these like they're so they think they have less, would you say, than they really do. They're empowered with more naturally than they believe they are. Is that
That's right. That's
true?
absolutely right. And after we have that conversation and we go through the training, we call that training the biblical empower worldview. By the way,
Mm,
it's a game changer. And after that, then we ask them, what future do you want for your children? And how may we
right.
partner together to create that future?
So they come up with their own vision. You're not giving them the
Absolutely.
vision.
Absolutely. They come up
Tell
with
them
their
who
own.
they are, uh, help equip them and uncover their God-given talents. I mean, it's not unlike what we do here. It's just or anywhere.
It's
I mean
exactly the same.
that's
It's
how you
exactly,
thrive as a human being.
that's exactly right.
Okay, well, just for fun, and I think this is something we like to have fun with a few people that have kind of made this shift kind of into the nonprofit world from the for-profit. And to me, there's frankly not that much delineation. We were talking earlier before we started recording about this secular sacred divide. You're using the same talents, I'm guessing, maybe a few different ones, but I mean, if we use this same sort of process, you've had to discern what your gifts from God are, and then, okay, Lord, everything I do is missional for your glory, whether I'm in business or who cares about the tax status of where you work,
That's right.
frankly.
That's
Um,
right.
that's not the delineation. The delineation is how do I put my talents to work? So, can you just, I think this is a fun platform for you to maybe share a little of your personal journey, if you don't mind doing that,
Yeah.
about how did you think about applying those in business and then kind of making that shift in the last decade or so into the role you have now.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was a journey for sure, and the Lord had to convict me of certain things.
Yeah,
Uh, Interestingly, Jeff, I didn't want to leave corporate America.
yeah,
Uh, when World Vision came knocking, looking at the time for a chief operating officer, I said, no, I'm not sure, I'm not ready. I can do a lot of things for Jesus here in corporate America,
right.
and but it was getting quite serious. They kept coming, and I felt that I needed to at least explore it. And but I was unsettled, and I think I was unsettled largely as a result of a stronghold, and the stronghold was money.
Mm.
It was money because I had nothing, and I had built something over the years. And the offer was not necessarily irresistible. I was
No,
I
of
was
course not. There's a huge
I
pay.
was
Of course, it's going to be a huge pay cut. Everybody knows that.
it was pretty massive,
Right.
and so I came up with a very twisted plan. We have four children, and two of them have special needs, and we had a great support system in Cincinnati, Ohio, where we were living at the time. That's where the Procter and Gamble company is headquartered. And so my twisted plan was to get my wife to say no. Okay, so
Right.
I went to my wife and I said, Lisa, I can't do this to you. I can't uproot you
Right.
from Cincinnati, move you across the country. Our two girls, and I gave her, the whole spiel. And then she looked at me and she said, Edgar Sandoval, which in Spanish means read my lips.
Oh,
Um, if God wants us to go to World Vision, we're going to be obedient. He will provide. He has always provided. So the first thing, so that was my wife. God gave me a godly wife. I wouldn't be here without her. So the first thing was getting over my own fears and tribulations about money, okay, and
yes.
and how to use my talents. To your point, generosity comes in so many different forms. Here, my generosity was going to come, and it was more than generosity, frankly. I might have been thinking about it as generosity at the time, but it was truly obedience. And I want to get into the topic of obedience
Yes. Yes.
when we
Please
have time.
do.
But so that was the first thing. But then in terms of once I came, you're so right, Jeff. I mean, the similarities between for-profit and ministry are there's so many. We all have to develop strong strategies. We have to
Exactly.
implement with excellence. Perhaps one area of difference, and so the skills, the experiences, the capabilities, the knowledge, fully transferable. Okay. Perhaps one key difference that I would contrast for you is in the area of return on investment. I
Yes.
I obsess in what that looks like. So I obsessed in my corporate career with ROI, right? Demanding high ROI, working
I
for
mean,
the
every business class you took,
right,
he was
exactly.
mentioned. I mean,
Exactly.
okay.
So you get it. You're obsessed with ROI. So when I made the switch to the ministry, there were some who said to me, "Okay, well, so now you can maybe relax a little bit. You can take it easy a little bit,
Right.
but you can take the pedal off the metal, right?
Right, right, right.
On return investment." But no, it's actually quite the opposite. I feel even more urgency on return because first of all, I don't think of World Vision as a not for profit. We are a for impact. We are for
Mm.
something. We are for impact. And to drive more impact, we need more resources, more resources going to our ministry programs in the places where we work. That requires us to increase revenue, reduce expenses. And in business, we call that increasing profit. At World Vision, we call it increasing the
Impact.
metric is called yield to the ministry.
Yield to the
And
ministry.
so there is this urgency for return investment. But here's the catch. Here's the difference. Okay, the ROI, although it's very real, it could be very high, does not create earthly wealth for me or for shareholders. It's a return on our donors' investment, but it's a return for somebody else, someone they may never meet, someone who lives halfway around the world. That's the real difference. But the higher ROI, and you and I were talking about this earlier, the higher ROI that our donors receive is joy. And I call this joy three things: the joy of obedience, because they're in the Father's will, doing the Father's will, because the Father will, the Bible, there's over 2,000 references to helping the poor and the oppressed. Okay. And I had missed that in corporate. I had missed that part of the Bible incorporated.
Mm,
I realized that when I came to World Vision. So you have the joy of obedience, you have the joy of generosity because it is better to give than to receive.
hmm.
And you have the joy of impact when you see lives changed. And the blessings of that impact travel both ways. We believe we have a ministry to the children and the families around the world, but also to our donors. Their lives, and they will be the first one to tell you how their lives have been fuller and changed for the families as a result of their generosity journey.
Yeah, and I really like that. And we don't spend a lot of time on this, but I think you've thought a lot more about this than maybe the average person in your current position, because I guess there's a spectrum of donors that I know. Some are very metric driven, okay, how much does it cost per child to get them X education or whatever it is, okay? Uh, and there are some people that are very, I'll say, more spirit driven, less
Yep.
concerned perhaps with the metric, maybe more relational, and they understand that it's hard to measure everything in dollars and cents, the impact.
Yep.
Um, so it's somewhere, I think you have to consider both. And so how, if you don't mind, just spark, because I could tell you have this business school brain and that's been applied in corporate America at a very big Procter and Gamble. I mean, how do you think about, how did you, can you do just a little more on that thinking from a sort of giver's perspective?
Yeah, this is this joy, the three joys, the joy of
Yes.
obedience, generosity, and impact.
Impact.
Speak to that. In fact, we have you called earlier, you mentioned earlier how you had profiled your audience
Right,
and your
right.
target audience. We also do that, and we see the two sort of personas, okay, between
Okay.
the relationship seeker, and then the one that is more metric driven. Now, to be clear, there's both of them exist in every one of them, but it's a matter of where their bias is, where the bias is, or where the weight is, and uh, and so we for many of our donors, they just want the joy of generosity. They want to know that they're making a difference, and
Yeah.
they and that's enough for them. And perhaps their level of involvement is they're a little more removed, so to speak, but in a way that not removed from the impact, but they're not maybe as into the metrics. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
is really not what motivates them, not what energizes them. They
Yes.
want to see the smiley, healthy children, okay, that are
Right.
no longer in poverty, and that's what we do. On the other hand, you also have what we call the faithful skeptic. they want to be faithful, but they want to see the numbers, they want to see the impact, they want to see the efficiency metrics, and and particularly, I would say, our business owners or higher net
Yeah,
worth donors, they have more of that disposition, and we completely welcome that because we think of them as investors, right?
right.
And we don't do anything without first developing a business plan that can get them excited. That's why there's so many similarities between corporate and this type of ministry. We develop business plans, we have strategy, we have goals, we have metrics, and we can show the impact of their dollars. And so depending on how God has wired you, and depending on where you get your joy from your generosity, we're ready to meet you there.
I think one of the things I like about the language you're using here, to be fair, there are many who are good at this, but I think a lot of um, nonprofit leadership, I mean, if you really pressed them, they are extremely wonderfully passionate about the mission, but sometimes I think it's easy for, even though I don't think they mean to do this intentionally, I think unintentionally sometimes as a large donor, and you may have felt this way on the other side of the table when you're in corporate America, but the giver wants to be a partner, not just a checkbook. Generally, I mean, sometimes people just want to write check, like you said, and they're maybe a little detached from. But can you just talk about, because I can tell I've dealt with your team, talking with you, there's a real sense of partnership, and that doesn't come naturally. That has to be a cultural thing at the organization. Can you just talk about how you think about that partnership a little deeper? Because I think we're sort of getting to that place.
Oh, it starts with the premise in my strong belief that particularly our business owners, our entrepreneurs,
Hmm.
corporate leaders, my goodness, these are highly successful people, okay, who
Yeah.
have a lot of knowledge and talents in dealing with complex matters. They have ideas, they have passion for the mission, and so we actually welcome their ideas. We've gotten better over time from their ideas. In fact, this biblical empowered worldview it was funded by by a few of our major donors who they just believe strongly that was going to be successful. And we're like, you know what? We're going to give that a try. We have a number. We used to have an innovation council with our major donors, where a lot of new ideas were germinated from that innovation council, and then they funded those ideas. Now it's a partnership. There's certain things that we may not be able to do or wouldn't want to do, but it's truly a partnership. And I think you will, if you speak to our longtime donors, those who have come alongside World Vision for many years, when I hear them talk, I don't even see the difference between how they refer to World Vision. They talk about us, they talk about World Vision, World Vision, and they're not even on staff, right? And that's, I think, the ultimate evidence of what you just mentioned, which is a partnership. But again, it starts with my strong belief that these are highly successful people who can solve a lot of problems, and we can learn, and we do learn from them.
Yeah, and I just think it kind of reminds me of the business principle of, I use it all the time. I've got an entire management team of people smarter than I am. Probably everybody at the company is smarter than I am, but I'm supposed to be the leader, right? But I think it takes a level of humility to recognize that you don't have all the answers and to invite other smart people who are aligned in the vision. But I think it also takes, I'm thinking of the phrase sort of abundance mentality versus a scarcity mentality, to sort of subject yourself to those suggestions.
Yeah,
And to have kind of a position that maybe I don't have all the answers, because I feel like sometimes we feel like we need to project like we do.
right.
To invite the feedback and have a
Absolutely.
mechanism for processing it properly to learn from it.
Absolutely.
You
Well
know,
said.
I think the other thing that I find really interesting, and I'd love your perspective on this, is I have never spoken to another team from a nonprofit who really wants to serve the business owner in a unique way, not just partner with them, but
Yeah,
I know your people are getting business owners together to actually sharpen each other
yeah.
and do that sort of thing. Where does that come from in your mind? What part of your culture has brought that to the fore? Because I think it's very unique and I think it's amazing for business owners.
It's it comes from our belief that we also have a ministry to
Hmm.
our donors
Yes.
right here in the U.S. This work is a ministry. Um, we know, we have felt it personally. By the way, we're all donors. We're staff members.
Right?
We're donors. Right? We know the joy, the transformation, the blessing. That the blessing travels both ways. And so
Yes.
we take the responsibility of development rather, with our donors very seriously as a ministry from God. And so once you do that, you start realizing that one size doesn't fit all. That one experience, one way of engaging with an organization like World Vision doesn't fit all. And so you begin to do the same things that you would do in corporate. You begin to segment your audience into different profiles of call it kindred spirits or similar life stages or
Yeah.
similar work stages, and then you ideate, well, what is the best way we can meet their needs? Because they don't have
Right.
three to come with us to our big conference. Then we may be able to get them for half a day, maybe 8 hours. So how do we best structure a conversation? Who do we bring into the room to make it worthwhile for them? How do we give them something that they can take back that is just for them? It's not extracting, it's not a transaction, it's truly a partnership. And so yeah, that's our mindset. We want them to
Well,
feel
I
rewarded in the relationship.
it's I just want everybody to hear this delineation, especially the nonprofit leaders out there. It is not, I think most people know this, but unintentionally, maybe it's not done well. That it's almost like fundraising is a necessary evil, you know? And so not only is it not a necessary evil, it's not only is it a partnership where you're doing the ministry together, but you guys have taken it a step further where you're like, no, we actually want to minister. How do we appropriately minister to our business owners? And a lot of that is some peer-to-peer stuff. We're planning some things together. I mean, through this community. I mean, I just think this is the way the kingdom gets built, but it takes some long-term thinking,
Yeah.
because maybe an immediate check doesn't get written. There's some relationship building, peer, like it's a bit of a longer sale in
Totally.
business. It's you sort of have to trust that the Lord will bring the fruit and
Yes.
invest
Yes.
in those relationships. And so all I can say is I really applaud that effort, and I think it's amazing. So I've got a couple of business owner friends that are extremely focused on their partnership with you guys, and they are taking their teams all over the place. What does it look like for a business owner or a business maybe with some employees, and they want to get the employees
Yeah.
involved, and maybe they want to go see something
Yeah.
that World Vision is doing? Well, what might that look like?
Yeah, no, that's what a great question. In fact, uh, there's one particular family that comes to mind, one business. I get to see a lot of
Of
families
course.
and business owners in my role. These families see the world through the eyes of Jesus, right? They're truly aligned,
Yeah.
their hearts with God's heart for the poor. And by the way, I mentioned briefly again, 2,000, more than 2,000 scriptures on helping the poor and the oppressed in the
Yeah.
Bible. I don't think the Bible talks about any other subject more than helping the poor and the oppressed. So it's God's calling in our lives, right? And so one example, an inspiring example that comes to mind is the story of Cody Nath and his family. He lives in Houston, Texas.
Yeah. Know him well. Yeah.
Cody's parents were World Vision supporters when he was a teenager. He traveled with his dad to the developing world. Those early experiences made a strong impression on Cody. And when he succeeded his father as president of the family owned business, which is called Refined Technologies or RTI, he made sure that the company lived into their mission statement, okay, continued to live into it, which is their mission statement is honor God always. I mean, talk about simple and powerful. Honor
Right.
God always. And to him, that means operating under biblical principles like honesty, integrity, and investing profits for eternal impact alongside partners like World Vision. Here's what we do. His employees support thousands of kids in Honduras through our sponsorship program, right? With the company paying a portion of their monthly pledges. So that's
Okay.
wonderful. So they both have skin in the game. The
Right.
employees pay a part of it, the company pays part of it. They take groups of employees on trips to see the transformation themselves. We have hosted them in Honduras. They have seen the work. They get to meet the kids they sponsor. And those visits are truly transformational. That they just cement that joy that you and I have been talking about. Uh, RTI has also funded clean water programs that have reached over 300,000 people in Honduras. That's a pretty significant impact. And they have worked hard to incorporate the connection to Honduras into the company culture. So, for example, if you go to their building, the conference rooms are named after the Honduran communities where they're helping, where they're working.
Right.
Right? The coffee break room has coffee from Honduras and from Honduran farmers.
Right.
And so yeah, and then Cody has helped establish also a ministry in Houston that helps men and women re-enter society after incarceration through Christian discipleship, housing, and employment. So he has a real heart for the vulnerable, for the poor, for the oppressed. And this passion, this is godly influence. This is godly influence that's going to, I mean, I don't think he'll ever be able to measure the kingdom impact that
Right.
his business owner leadership is having in the world. And that is true kingdom impact.
Well, we've had Randy Alcorn on the program, and of course, he's an amazing writer in many ways. His book Heaven transformational for me, but also the Treasure Principle. And to me, the line that I always think of when I hear something like this is, "You can't take it with you, but you can send it ahead." And it's kind of the ultimate deferred comp plan, if you will, in corporate speak. It's like that ROI that we're trying to put human English words to things that are almost can't be defined in our vocabulary, which is the joy of obedience, generosity, and impact. And those things, some of that joy is deferred. Some of
Right.
those rewards are deferred, and there's treasure in heaven that we can't see or feel or touch right now, but we'll understand it one day. But understand having an eternal worldview, and understanding is, I think, key to the whole thing. But there is joy today in that too, right? I mean, you
Sure.
wake up and to have a company where your employees come back, and I think most people like Cody do it because it's obedience. But I think they're generally pleasantly surprised by the positive feedback and
Yes.
the sort of the positive loop of cultural reinforcement and all these things. So they tend
It
not to
shapes
do
the
it for
culture. Yeah,
business reasons, but the business thrives.
it
Uh,
does.
how
It
do you
shapes
think
the
about that?
culture. It
Yeah,
shapes the culture as a service culture. And
yes,
what better to have in any company than a service-oriented culture?
exactly, exactly. Well, Edgar, this has been so much fun. We could go forever, but as we sort of think about, I always think about, a business owner, maybe they're having some success and God's sort of whispering in their ear to use their platform a little more directly, maybe in this way. What would be a practical tip? I don't want them to get out of the car and sort of turn this off and not make any change. What's just a step in the right direction they could make today or tomorrow toward thinking about using their maybe business platform in a little more generous way? What would your advice be?
I'd say get started.
Right.
Find a cause, a passion. What breaks your heart? What breaks your heart? Find what breaks your heart. Uh, at World Vision, our founder Bob Pierce, a youth pastor, his prayer was Lord, break my heart for the things that break your heart, right?
Yes.
And that is something that we still to today we do. I want my heart to be broken for the things that break the heart of God. What so ask that question. Go to the Word. Spend time in the Word and ask the Lord to show you what breaks your heart. You may already know it. You may need to discover it in your morning time, and then find an organization that you can trust, that others may know. Ask for recommendations based on your passion on what breaks your heart, and get started. um, it's kind of like learning to walk. You first crawl and then you cruise and then you walk and then you run. You will find I don't make a lot of promises I can't keep or any promises I can't keep. I will promise you that you'll find the joy. You'll find the joy in the impact that you'll have. And in fact, be careful. Be careful what you wish for, because it's actually at times it's so wonderful that you can't get enough of it. You'll be more excited about your business than you were before, I think, and the joy that you'll bring to your organization, intrinsically to yourself and to your family, from the good that you're doing to advance the kingdom, it's immeasurable. So just get started.
I totally agree. It's just plugging in to the way God made the world to operate. That
That's
is
all.
where the joy comes from. And
That's all.
so, and when you pray about, He's not going to answer a prayer. God is not going to answer that prayer about what to do in a way that's not congruent with His
Right.
principles.
That's
You know,
exactly
and He's a loving God who cares deeply about us. So He's going to move you in the right direction. And then I was just scribbling down, where your heart is, or where your treasure is, your heart is also, right? Like, I mean, there's just something about that joy that comes with doing the things that God tells us to do, which are so productive. So anyway, I just love that. I love that encouragement of just getting started and moving in the right direction. Take a baby step in the right direction and see where it takes you. We know it's going to be a good place. Well, Edgar, I can't thank you enough for being with us today.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Edgar, and thanks everybody for joining us on this week's Generous Business Owner Podcast. Share it with a friend, subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Generous Business Owner Podcast with Jeff Thomas, Alan Barnhart, and Jeff Rutt. Make sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode. You can find the guest contact information in the show notes. Stay tuned for the next episode.